Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dad's Perspective Podcast, episode 4. Yeah. 4. Hey, episode 4. Man, I honestly couldn't remember, Story. So episode 4. You know, they say a habit isn't formed until 28 days. Not only is that one of my favorite movies, I think it's true. We have to push through minimum 28 episodes. And on the 29th, we can expect to be millionaires. Right? Does that seem far-fetched?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Millionaires. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, man, it's been good. I love doing this podcast, and we've actually the channel's not doing bad, you know? So it's something we're doing people like.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah. So how has the family been, man? What's my boy still young, but I think he just had a birthday. I don't remember. I always forget this stuff.
You got that kid right, dude. Trust me. You won't remember until they're older. You're like, oh yeah, his birthday,
Yeah. So he's bigger, and that's the biggest thing. He figured out how to really kind of like make noise now. So he does a lot of like the and just blah, and he kind of just like blurts stuff out all the time. And he smiles constantly, dude. Just he sees my face and he goes from like to right? It's so cool. He knows me. He knows the papa. And it's when he reacts to seeing me, I just, it truly warms my heart and spirit, man.
Yeah, man. So I tell people, look, dog energy, man. It sounds terrible calling your kid a dog, but when they're in that baby stage, I'm telling you, it's just like a small puppy. They know they can't say anything, but they see you, they get happy, tail wagging, you know?
It's so true, dude. They just, because what wife will do is she'll be holding him and then turn him towards me, and he'll kind of like look around. But the moment he catches my eyes and I give him a big old smile, he smiles back. And it's so freaking fun. And we finally get to play like some moving him around games, right?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, twice. You got a little burpage, just like the baby, right? But now because he can hold his head up enough, I can finally kind of move him a little bit. So we play this game where I like drop him down and then I pick him back up. And he looks me in the face and then he'll start to laugh. And I drop him down and I pick him back up. And then like I'll grab him under the armpits and I'll, kind of like just up and down because now he can. And it's so cool, man.
And you do that one time because you forget that he ate recently. Next thing you know, he's puking all over you because that's the thing.
I believe it, and I am so gun shy still. Like so I'm holding him, and I'm just like, okay, we're good. I'm just waiting for that bullet of vomit to come out, man. Yep. And so far, I've been lucky. So anytime he's going to get me, I hit the thing real quick so it pukes on himself, and then I hand him off to mom. It's awesome. It is a very good
system. Puke on yourself, not me.
Yeah, please don't puke on me. I got a sensitive tummy. I've known to puke back. It's like I love him, but I got a wicked gag reflex, man. And it's like
you puke on him and return and be like,
I don't want to puke on my boy, but if he gets one of my biggest fears is I bring him close to my face and he pukes in my mouth.
Dude, that's natural. Same thing for me. I saw videos and I was like, if that child pukes in my mouth, I'm telling you right now, I will be puking back on my child. So you better get ready to take him out of her hands.
Dude, I can't imagine any world where you don't immediately just like back on him, man. Woo! So that's something I'm super gun shy about. But ultimately, we have so much fun. That is something I've been waiting for is when he gets a little more rigidity so that we can finally play, right? Because he'll put both of his feet on my big old Buddha belly and I'll just like jump, right? So he'll squat down. I'll feel him push against my stomach and then I launch him up, right? And then we play this bouncing game. And then when he wants me to do the falling down thing, like the dip, he'll lean backwards, like he'll throw his hands and his head backwards because he wants me to have him fall and then come back up. And it's like, it's so much more intelligence at such a young age. Like I think he just hit 3 months or something like that. And he already has wants.
Yeah.
Do this. Like, he knows if he does this that I'm going to whoosh him down. He knows
Yep.
if he bops on my belly that I'm going to bounce him and jump him up and down. And I didn't expect it. I didn't expect him to be so smart so quick.
No, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, my kiddo, when she was little, like, she had like a little iPhone from my ex because I upgraded her phone. And like, I mean, she was still little, but she learned how to, like, she could move videos kind of when she wanted to switch something. But like,
How
it's
old?
crazy how fast they learn. I'd say she's probably like 2, and she just
And they're
didn't
already
go.
like moving videos, and that's,
Yeah, like, because she
dude.
just knew, like, because, like, at the bottom, like, there's this thing, and, like, she would see me scroll through it, so, like, a video. So for
Yeah.
her, she's like, "Oh, I see dad doing it," and she just, with her hand, she just kinda, like, hit the screen, and, like, it would work. So, like, she couldn't do it very well, but she understood the concept, like, "Hey, there's stuff down there I can touch, and it'll," but,
And that's
even, like, the
before like
neighbors,
talking, right? Like, are they saying much
Uh,
at 2? How much are they talking at 2?
I mean, yeah, she's okay, because, like, the neighbor's kid isn't even 2 yet, and she'll say, "Stop." My favorite is the thing that she was doing, like, a month or 2 ago. uh, it was hilarious. I was over there, and she would just start yelling, "Help me," or "I need help," and it was hilarious because I'm like, can you imagine somebody outside? I'm like,
Well,
and your daughter
yeah.
just running around here, and all
Help.
you hear is "Help, help, I need help." And like, you're just like, what the heck? And then they see like a kid in the window, like face plastered against. I'm like, that is
Help. Help.
hilarious.
Oh
But
man, because I guess they learn phrases, huh? And
yeah,
once they learn a phrase, do they just kind of go on and
yeah,
on
kind
and
of
on
like
about?
in a certain way because like she says help, she'll say I need help, she'll say no. No right now is her big thing. When I'm over there, if I'm talking to her mom, she has this big thing of like, nobody, if you're not talking to me, no. So like if I start talking to her mom and she wants attention, she just goes,
Oh,
no, no, stop it, no. And then she'll like hit me and stuff like that if I hit her mom, and I'm just like, yeah.
wow.
But it's great. But yeah,
Yeah.
like she's getting there, and like she walks around and stuff. Like she's adorable. I love her to death.
Oh my gosh, man.
But
So what would you say was like for me so far the first things that they're learning is a lot of that do A then B happens, right? Like if
yeah,
I scream this way, boobs come to my face, right? Or
yeah,
if I scream this way, they come and squeeze my belly and help me with the poops. If I put my hand
yep,
back and throw it back like that, right? Like then he'll play with me. So what's like cuz Emma's 6. So like
yeah.
what stage is she learning right now? Like morality already? Because if they so quickly learn,
Yeah.
cause and effect, like,
Right now, I mean, she's learning how to read. Um,
oh, okay.
she's learning her numbers better. She's learning how to write, like, and how the letters look and stuff like that. That's kind of what they got her in school right now. She's in kindergarten. That's what they're teaching her.
Nice.
She does right. She can count pretty good. She knows her ABC. She can count to, I want to say 20 right now, I think is what she's at
Okay.
consecutively. Like, not an issue. After that, it's kind of eh. But no, she's pretty good. Like, her mom was really big on manners when she was little, and so was I. But she's
Yeah.
really good. Like, we go to people's houses, she's like, please and thank you.
Oh, I bet you that
Um,
feels good.
when we went to my buddy's house on Monday, she did get in trouble when we left because she didn't really want to leave. So she started throwing a fit, wouldn't say goodbye to them, wouldn't give hugs.
Oh,
And I'm like, they're basically family. I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, you don't have to give a hug, but at least say bye and say thank you. And she wouldn't. And I was like, if you don't say bye and thank you, I said, we're not coming back. I'm like, because that's very rude. I was like, you don't do that. I said, you say thank you for letting people come over. I
yeah.
said, they gave you dinner. I was like, and you got to play. I was like, so say thank you. And she said, and she just like kind of mumbled it. And I was like, yeah, it's better than nothing. And then like we
Yeah.
went home and I told her and I said, look, I'm like, if you keep doing that, I said, we're not going to go over. She's like, why? I'm like, because it's very rude what you did. I'm like, you don't do that to people. They let us come to their home. I was like, you got to eat food that they paid for you. I was like, you got to play with the toys
Wow.
and you got drinks. I'm like, so you need to be nice. I'm like, and that was very mean. And like, she was like, okay. She's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, that's fine. You're sorry, sweetheart. I said, but you need to do better next time. Okay. And she's like, okay. And like, we talked about it and like kind of get her to understood. And she's usually pretty good. Like, usually she's always saying please and thank you. Like, you at the neighbor's house, she'll say please and thank you. And like, if she needs something, she'll ask. But
Yeah.
like, it's different seeing because, one of the things I noticed that was before we started this whole thing, I said about the whole neighbor issue thing. Um, she's not really big on disciplining her kids when it comes to like spanking and stuff. And her one daughter, who's think she's 8. Had to give her a spank, and she felt really bad about it. But like we were talking, and I was like, yeah, there's certain things that I noticed that kind of like bother me, but just because like my personal opinion,
Yeah.
And she got pretty upset about it, and I'm just like, like everybody's gonna have their own opinions. I'm like, you don't need to take it to heart. Like just because I see something I don't like, at the end of the day, it's not my place to discipline another child. It's not my place to say what's right or wrong for them, because like you're in your own circumstances. We're raised different, But yeah, it's something I noticed after having Emma, like different parenting styles and certain things that bother me. That I'm just like, why is this not the normal thing? Like it kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
But
So
before I
like
just
you're saying,
whatever.
seeing other people's parenting styles before Emma, it was more bygones be bygones, but then after
like,
Emma,
whatever.
you're more like, how come this
Yeah,
seems like such an obvious thing? How come you're not doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, like
Interesting.
I'm sorry, like why is she just doing this without asking first? Like I don't like in my household, or like whenever I go, I'm like you always ask before you get something. I'm like, because that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Like when you go to a friend's house, you always ask before you go get like a drink or something. And then after a while, you're family at that point, or like best friends, so you don't have to ask. But up until that point, like you always ask, and like even at home, like I have Emma ask because I'm like I never know what she's gonna grab. I'm like maybe I'm making it for dinner or for lunch or something like that, or I don't want to having it right now. But yeah,
well, and it teaches
different.
good communication too, right? Like, don't just be a lone wolf. Because right now, they don't understand. Like, but you are cohabitating a space. So to learn to cohabitate with somebody, you need to have an exchange of can I's and may I's and please and all that. So if she just anytime she wants goes and grabs a handful of bologna and just eats the whole thing, because the idea of making a sandwich is a little beyond too much, right? Like, so it's important kids want order so much. They don't necessarily need this rigid prison-like state, but they definitely want to know where are the limits, right? Like, where can I push the boundaries, push the limits? And as a parent, I would think, because this is how I'm going to do it with him, is essentially the box just gets bigger, right? Like what they can do, where their freedoms lie, where their responsibilities lie. It starts teeny tiny, and then as they get older and smarter and prove themselves, those responsibilities and freedoms just keep getting bigger and bigger, right? So by doing too much too early, or too much freedom too early, now you got to teach basic fundamental manners when they're old and stubborn and can fight back, instead of when they're young and you just say, what do you say? Please. Like, that's why it matters. It's so that when it is complex, they know, like, hey, can I please get your manager? Rather than it's like, where's your fucking manager? And because they didn't get to learn how to be controlled when they're young. To me, a lot of the argument, you remember, I don't know if they still do this, but when I grew up, girls got their ears pierced like right away, like basically baby newborns. Right. And the whole idea is like, well, it doesn't hurt right now. They're going to want to do it later. So we're going to put them in pain now so that it's done. Right.
Yeah.
And, regardless of beliefs or whatever, that logic made a lot of sense to me. A little bit of pain now for no pain later makes a lot of sense. Similar to like raising a kid. Sure, they're going to be more upset as a child because their emotions are wild. They're going to cry, scream, throw a tantrum. It's going to be way louder than when they're older. But I just feel like it won't matter as much. Like a kid throwing a tantrum compared to a teenager having a fight or an argument.
Yeah, and it's kind of too late.
It's right. Like, think about how much more consequences there are going to be in those two scenarios. It's like you look at the kid throwing a tantrum, freaking out. Sure, I'm sure they go nuclear, man. But then that's it. Like, okay, are you done? Compared to, hey, story, this is an officer at your door. Emma, unfortunately, got in a fight, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, that's not when you want to have to go, Emma, what is going on? you know? So that's, I don't know. It's a hard line to do, because I imagine when I do have to make him sad on purpose, it's going to suck a lot to make him sad on purpose.
It really depends on what you're making him sad for. Because, like, I thought the same thing with Emma. Like, the first time I have to, like, discipline her and stuff, I'm going to feel terrible. And like when it was minor things, yeah, I felt like crap. Because like I shouldn't have to like raise my voice or anything like that. I'm like, but like she needs to learn. So I felt kind of shitty. But like
Mm-hmm.
when it was genuine, like writing on the wall or trying to touch the stove and I had to yell and she got upset, like that's genuine. Like, hey, you can't be doing that shit. Like I need to yell at you. Like you have
Oh
now
yeah,
a real reason I really need to raise my voice. And like even now, like I hadn't really had a discipline her really at all since she's probably like 4. Much.
really?
Like she's very good. She's well behaved. She listens to me very well. And like one thing she told her mom, which I still don't quite understand because like her mom yells at her a lot and disciplines her a lot and stuff like that. But she told her mom the reason she listens to me more is because she's scared of me. And I'm
You
just
think it's
like,
that
sweetheart,
dad energy?
I don't know because like when I was little, like I was more scared of my mom than I was my dad. Like
Oh
my dad
really?
was very chill. Like if he yelled, like it was scary because my dad never really yelled. But like I was still more scared of my mom. But
Hmm.
like with Emma, like I don't know, just because like I'm so calm and I don't really ever have to raise my voice to her, and she used to her mom yelling all the time and stuff like that. So for her, like like that's just mom because she's always yelling and getting in
Some
trouble,
more
and I'm just calm.
desensitized.
And then yeah, and then when I finally like, have to raise my voice because well, what was she doing the one day? Oh, she's sitting on my chair that I'm actually sitting in now. And she kept trying to like lean over the side or like come on my chair to sit with me and come over the side. I'm like, you can't do that. I'm like, you're gonna break it. Stop. And then
Ah,
she was leaning over the other side, and I'm like, you need to stop. I'm like, you're gonna fall. I'm like, you're gonna flip the chair. I was like, you're gonna get hurt. I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with your mom. Please stop. And
sorry.
she's like, okay. And then she's like, I don't want you to get yelled at. And I said, okay. Um, and then she did it again where she's leaning over, and next thing you know, I just see her go whoop over the side
Oh shit.
and almost smash her face off the lamp that I have over here. And I was having a bad day and I was tired. And I'm like, I'm tired of talking to you. So I raised my voice
Yeah.
and I snapped and I yelled and I said, go sit on the couch. I was like, with your tablet. I said, you're there for the next hour. I said, I don't, nothing.
Damn.
I'm like, if you get hungry, you want a snack, I'm like, fine. If you need to go to the bathroom, go potty. I said, but next hour on that couch. I was like, I'm not having it.
She got in
So,
trouble for not listening. That's
and
what I
like
heard.
I felt bad because like it wasn't something I really needed to yell at her for. It was more like I just like, hey, this is what I told you.
Yeah.
Now you got hurt. I was like, that's on you.
But you're
So like
secretly like,
I
oh
felt
you.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt bad because I'm like I knew like if I wasn't so tired and already having a bad day because of things I was dealing with, like it wouldn't have been me snapping at her. It would have been more of like a hey, see, consequences, learn your
Yeah.
lesson. Maybe if you would start listening. Because one of the big things that her mom started doing was like asking her if she has her listening ears on. Because at her house, like she doesn't
I've
seem to
heard of
listen
that.
very well. So like I started using it. It tends to work, but yeah, that's
It does
one
make
thing
some
that like
focus.
yeah, but I'm a big fan of like if it's not really gonna hurt you, I'm not really gonna yell at you for it, even when you do something to hurt yourself. I'm just gonna be like, learn your lesson. Yeah. And
Uh,
like I know a lot of people are like, no, like that's a terrible way to teach children. And I'm like, yeah, but you learn by doing. I'm like, so if they're not gonna get really hurt, like they're gonna break a bone, just really burn themselves or like cut themselves open, I'm like, but
yeah.
they're jumping on the couch and I know that at some point they're gonna fall and probably like get a bruise, like smack something that's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Like,
let you do it. And that's exactly what I did because she was jumping on my couch and I have like wood on the inside for the ends that is kind of thick. There's not much padding. And she came down one time and she smashed her like hip off of it and
ooh.
started crying. And I said, are you bleeding? And she started crying. And I said, are you okay? And she's like, no. And I'm like, does it hurt? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, are you bleeding? And she's like, no. I
Yeah.
was like, can you move your leg? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, can you turn? She's like, yeah. I'm like, did you learn your lesson? She's like, yeah. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Stop jumping on the couch.
Well, that's
Doesn't jump
my
on the couch
thing.
since.
So, do you think that so much of how? Because okay, let me dip you into my brain after what I just heard what you said, man. So, like, everything you said to me was just yes, of course. Like, even when you said you snapped, I wouldn't even
Yeah.
call that snapped. When you corrected her for not listening and then almost got hurt severely, I think that's a righteous reason to yell at your kid. Like,
Yeah.
do you think so much of why we now think that that's like a bad thing as men is just simply because of the times we're in? Because think about even our dads. Like, do you really think they were chastised for saying, hey, you little shit? What'd I
Nah.
say? Like, I don't, my dad is an amazing man who raised me very well. And he yelled at me a lot because I did shit that was deserving of it. I did very dangerous things that could have killed me or burned the house down. And so I got in trouble for it. And I don't know, like, to me, nowadays, I feel like a lot of men, if you were in the store with your kid and they were stealing food and like raising hell, and you as the dad were like, get your ass over, like grabbed him by the arm, not painfully, you're not beating him with your fist, but you grab him and say, get your ass over here and quit being a little shit. Like, I think people would be like, you know, like, hey man,
I see videos
take it easy. It's like, what? He's being a bastard. I'm trying to make him not be a son of a bitch for you guys. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem, it's weird. It's a weird neutering of men.
Is I don't think it's just dudes either, like even women. Like
true.
My neighbor, like when her first daughter was younger, she said she spanked her in a store because she wasn't listening and was just acting up like real bad.
Yeah.
And the lady followed her around and called the police and had them show up, and they're like, hey, this is what we heard, like, and it was like, first off, it's not your kid. I'm like, if you're not being beat, mind your fucking business. Second off, I'm like, you all bitch about all these bad kids, like teenagers and everything else, about how, and it's like 99% of the time is because they were not disciplined as a child. So like they know they can get away with anything. And that's the problem. And like for me, like I don't really ever spank Emma. I don't really like smack her hand or anything like that. But like if she's doing something she needs, I'm going to. I don't care if I'm in public. I will raise my voice. I'm like, and if you don't like it, cool. Don't like it. It's not your fucking kid.
Good for
Leave
you,
the hell
man.
alone. Because I'm just like, I'm not gonna have her growing up to where she's acting like a shithead to other people and putting someone down for being a bully and shit. Like, no, it's not needed. Absolutely not. I will not stand for it. I can't.
Well, and that's so important because ultimately we can't let society let us raise our kids poorly. That's such an important thing that for right now, with such a plugged in world, man, like we are kind of getting wired to think and care more about other people's opinions than our own opinions, right? Like it's bad, and it's something that is naturally occurring because of social media and just a general change in society and culture. It's happened many times, and it's happened right now. The issue is like, how much do you comply so that you're not an outcast, but also how do you make sure that you raise a good kid? Like, because the idea that spanking, like, if you spank your kid, you're just going to show them that violence solves their problems. It's like, no, that's not at all what I'm doing. Because as soon as that kid tries to use violence to solve its problems, we're going to have an issue. So I'm going to it doesn't just stop. You always raise your kids. Like the second that kid was born, I knew I would never stop being his dad. Like, it's not just going to be like, hey, he's perfect. I guess I got no more lessons. I'm going to be 90 years old telling that kid what to do when he's 50 or whatever. I don't know what our age difference is, but you know what I mean? And that's where, like, to my original point, just you've been doing it so much longer, right? So I would think I would be nervous to correct my kid in a store, even if it was he was justifiably being a shit.
Like, my thing is, I get where some parents come from, where they're like, oh, well, like if you're just constantly spanking them for everything, like, you teach them violence, and I'm like, yes, 100% why I understand. I'm like, if you're using spanking as not only a threat, because like if they get it one or two times, especially as they get older, they're gonna realize like, hey, I don't want that.
Yep.
And you do it for a legit reason, not just because like, oh, they spilled milk on the floor. Like a legitimate, like, hey, they're 7 years old and they decided to use crayon or marker on your wall while you're going to the bathroom, and they know better than that. Like, it's gonna show like, hey, I can't do that. Yeah. Like, it's not like, oh, I spilled milk, spank. Oh, I acted up, spank. Oh, no. I, talked out of turn, spank. Like, no, but like,
no, it's not a go-to.
Like, I want her to understand when we're in public, like, I will give her chances. Like, before we've gone to the store and she got in the habit where it was like, every time we go to the store, I wanna get something. And I'm like, no. And the one time she copped an attitude with me, and she's like, well, I was good. And I was like, and that's great, you were good. I'm like, but that doesn't mean you get a toy every single time we go to the store, sweetheart. I'm like, being good is a good thing. Like, that's what you need to do. I'm like, for me, for your mom, for your stepdad, I'm like, when you go to grandma and grandpa's, I was like, wherever you are, I'm like, you need to be good. That doesn't mean you get a present for it. I'm like, Daddy doesn't get a present for being good. I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't see me getting anything. And she's like, well, you should. And I'm like, well, that's not the way the world works, sweetheart. And she's like, well, I want a toy. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you think you deserve a toy giving dad an attitude? I'm like, because right now what you're going to get is a spank. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, okay. And I'm like, so what do you want? And she's like, can I please have a toy?
Oh,
And I was like,
wow.
and I'm like, okay. I was like, thank you for saying please. I'm like, but the answer's still no.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started throwing a fit. And I was like, I'm like, you want to spank? I'm like, I'll spank you right here and we'll go home with nothing. And then like she kind of like got upset, but then she understood. And like ever since she's been good. And it's like concept of like, if you raise your kids right and teach them properly, you are not going to have an issue where you really have to spank them often or really at all. Like, I
Yeah.
think I've spanked Emma twice. Um, and I maybe slapped her hand like 3 times. And probably 2 of the hand slaps and one of the spanks was because I'd be cooking and she'd come in the kitchen, which I had
Mm-hmm.
no issue with, but she would try to touch the stove. And I'd be like, no. And she wouldn't listen. And I'd be like, Emma, no.
Yep.
And she still wouldn't listen. And then I'd like kind of like swat her hand away a little bit, like a little tap, and she still wouldn't. And like I'd pull her out of the kitchen and she'd come back in and I'd be like, you're gonna learn your lesson. And she kept doing it. And then I spanked her the one time. And then she was good for a while and she did it again and I slapped her hand.
Oh,
And
man.
then she was good for a little bit and she did it a third time and I slapped
Wow.
her hand harder. And after that, she was good. She never had issues and she understands. Like even now when I'm cooking, she'll ask if she can help and I'll say yes. And then like I will show her like when we cook stuff in the oven, I'll open it and like, you feel how hot it is? She's like, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like, if you
yeah, yeah.
understand, I said you understand. I'm like, if you touch that without protection, you're gonna burn yourself. I'm like, would you like to try with gloves? I'm like, I'll help you. She's like, no, no. She's like, I'm not big enough. I'm like, good. I'm glad you understand. And I put everything in. I shut
How
the door, and
interesting.
we'd be good.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's all you need to have a legitimate reason because if you overuse it, then yes, technically, I feel like it's abuse. And then you're gonna raise your kid just to be a bully to everybody because you're like, well, I'm constantly being hurt. That's love, so I'm
Mm,
gonna show it on other people,
I
or
never
they're just
looked at it like
shitheads
that.
because they're not being disciplined. So like, it's a
Yeah.
very fine line. But like I said, I don't know, just because like I don't really yell at her often, and because when I do, it scared her. Now, like if she acts up, I'm usually just like Emma 1, and
Yeah, the
sometimes I
count.
cross the line, and I'm like 2. I'm like, do you want me to get to 3? And then she's like usually good. She'll do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah. That's
But
what my folks did.
I'm just like, it's not that hard. And like her mom just struggles very badly and she does not have patience and she just wants her to be older than she is. And I'm like, you can't rush a child. I'm like, your child is going to be your child, whatever age she is, you
Yeah.
need to treat her as such. And her having ADHD on top of everything else as a kid is going to make everything harder because for her, if she's distracted easily, if she doesn't want to do it, she's not really going to do it. I'm like, and you can
Mm-hmm.
stand there and tell her what needs to be done, but she's going to get distracted mid doing whatever she's doing and forget the rest of stuff she needs to do. And I've been trying to work with her mom to understand that
Yeah.
like it's gonna be a process. It's patience. It's gonna be annoying. It's gonna be angry. You might have to raise your voice occasionally. I'm like, but you do it so much, she's used to it. I'm like, so what? Like, why is she gonna listen to you?
Mm. It's not like
Because you're
she's
constantly
numb to it.
yelling. Yeah, she's just
Yep.
like, okay, like mom's yelling again. Okay, big deal. Mom's yelling. I'm used to it. She does it all the time.
It almost like
So
it takes away the impact that
effect.
it had. Yeah,
Yeah.
the effect of it.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just
it's the same thing as war. Like, I mean,
true.
if it was me and you somewhere and we are sleeping in a house and there's like bullets going off and gunfire and everything else, I'm sure you wouldn't have an issue. You'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to bed. I'm like, dude,
We're
we're shooting.
fine. We're
And you're like, no,
fine.
no, dude, we're good. Let's go
We're
to sleep. I'm
fine.
like,
Wait. Yeah, they're far
no,
away. We're good. We're good.
I'm hiding in the basement. You're like, dude, it's just gunfire. You'll be fine. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, like you got eventually used to it. And you're just like, yeah, don't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like the same thing with discipline because that's how I was getting spanked. Eventually, I got spanked so much that I was kind of like, huh, whatever. And
Yeah.
I got to the age where I thought it'd be, haha, tell my mom, joke's on you, it doesn't bother me. And then I got the belt. And I learned after the second time of getting the belt, you don't laugh about that. I'm like,
Yeah.
so, you
She
know,
can escalate.
yeah, exactly.
Huh.
So
But
I
if I
feel like,
remember right, you were saying that that was such a distinct memory. Like it literally
oh,
made you
oh
fly
yeah.
right.
Oh, it did 100% because I never wanted again because I remember when I did that, she got the belt and she hit me. It was a black belt because she had a lot of Harley belts,
Oh my
And
God.
um, I first I'm like I had that happen. I mean that hurt, and then I got a little bit older, and she went to use the belt again. Um, and I was just like, whatever, like you're not gonna punish me anymore. Like I'll show you what. Like this don't phase me any. And I decided to pull the hop again. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember she pulled out a Harley Davidson belt that had metal little round studs on it. And I got hit with that one time. And I tell you what, never in my life did I just like ever want to act up again to have fear of getting hit with that belt. I was like, hell no. Like, I'm going to be the best behavior
Yikes.
until either I can get out of this house and I don't need to worry about it. I'm like, or I'm like, I'm too old for it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I did eventually in my teenage years. I got to the point where I was kind of a little shithead for a while.
Yeah.
But I pretty much lived my buddy and I got grounded. But I learned, and this is what I'm hoping Emma doesn't learn, is that I used to drive my mom crazy when I was grounded because I was stuck in the house. So I would drive
Oh.
her crazy to the point she used to be like, okay, go the fuck outside because I can't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Ungrounded, leave me
win.
alone.
I win. Or she'd be like, go to your room. And I'd be like, well, what am I going to do in my room? I can't do anything. And she'd be like, you can play your Xbox. She's like, just go because
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
drive her crazy. And if I was in my room with nothing, I would just be making noise, just because I had nothing to do to
Yeah.
drive her more crazy. And then, I got my way. So,
And
you
how
know,
old was that when you were maniacal like that?
probably like 13, 14.
Oh my
So,
gosh, right on the cusp of like
yeah.
teenager. Because the craziest thing, man, is I don't know. He's still in my brain like a newborn that is just a
Hmm.
bigger newborn. I don't know
Yeah.
when I'll think of him as like a kid. Maybe it'll be when he walks, right? Because now he's in like a different phase,
I
But it's definitely wild.
I feel like for me, like, because for me, like when I talked about Emma, I was like, oh, like she's a baby. And then like when she kind of got to the point where she could walk, I was like, okay, she's a toddler.
Okay.
Like kind of. And then when I felt like she was more like a kid, I'd say she was probably like a little over like probably 5. When
Okay.
like she can kind of talk a bit better and like kind of like do things on her own a little bit. Because I'm like, okay, like now you're to the point where I don't really have to help you with much. I
Yeah.
gotta make you food on occasion if you don't want snacks or something you can make yourself. I'm like, and I still kind of potty train certain things. I'm like, but for the most part, you're kind of self sufficient. I'm like,
Like
so
the
I don't
big
really need to help you on
changes.
too much. Yeah. So
Ah,
like now I
cool.
kind of feel like you're a kid because I'm like I'm not how to change diapers. I know
Yeah.
how to make sure you go potty every so often. I'm like, I check on once in a while just to make sure. But I'm like, other
Hmm.
than that, I pretty much make her food, and that's pretty much it. Like I don't really have to do much of anything else.
So
So
for
I'm
me, it
like,
all
that's
sounds
kind of
like different stages of peace of mind. Like when they're a baby,
yeah,
it's like, don't break or die, please. Right. And
yep.
then they can walk. It's like, okay, so don't
Smack her face
break.
off something.
Yeah. Don't swallow something you're not supposed to. And like every time you get a little less scared about something, it's a different phase. And then
Oh
there's
yeah,
like a pendulum
absolutely.
where it goes from, okay, now I'm starting to get more scared about stuff. Wait, he's about to be able to
Yep.
drive. Oh God, he's dating.
Yep.
Because dude, the other day I was daydreaming about his like first heartbreak, right? Like his first girlfriend that tears up his teeny little heart. And I just was like, oh, it's gonna break my heart to see him in so much pain because I remember how I was when that Jezebel destroyed my innocence. And like those are some of
Yeah.
the things I don't want to rush. I'm not in a rush for him to be there, but those memories, man, or memories, these made up memories that I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
being created, they are some of the fun ones because I just
Yep.
want to be there for him.
Yeah, because I remember, like,
I'm
I
right
was
there.
thinking, I'm like, when am I gonna be comfortable when Emma starts wanting to be like, oh god, sexually active? I can't in my I don't even want to fucking think about that. Like, I don't even
32.
have that talk. But that's yeah. I'm just like,
Oh
listen, when
God.
I'm dead, then you can have kids because then I don't need to worry about it. But like, because like, I was thinking back and I'm like, I didn't do anything until I was 12 was when I really started kind of like learning about it and kind
Okay.
of had the fear of God put into me by a friend of mine that kind of turned me off wanting to do anything. Then 13, I was probably like a little over 13. Um, I kind of had like my first real like crush, like girlfriend kind of thing.
Okay.
And like she started coming over to the house. My mom really liked her, and she kind of had some experiences because she was, I think, a year older than me.
Okay.
Um,
What grade's
And
13?
I want to say I was in
6th grade?
I think I was sixth or seventh grade. I think.
Around, I think you're
Remember.
still in middle
Right
school.
around there.
Around that
Yeah.
age, yeah.
And I remember the rule in my house was the door can't be closed.
Yeah.
And then my mom's like, look, like you're becoming a teenager, like you should have more privacy and stuff like that. Like I trust you. Well, I'll tell you what, that was a mistake. Because I remember
Should she not have trusted you?
No, well, it wasn't so much me as the girlfriend. But that was the first time like we did anything. Like we didn't sleep together, but a certain you know, mouth rule thing.
Scandal.
So then like I was,
Good for
okay.
you.
So I'm like, that's cool. And then that kind of got me to like wanting to sleep with her and stuff, but like we never did. And then I remember at 14 really was when I met her. This is wild. So this shows how small my town is, okay? So my first girlfriend, I ended up dating another girl who I knew, and found out later on that they were actually cousins. And I was like, that's wild, but okay.
Okay.
And at 14 was when I ended up sleeping with her and lost my virginity.
Nice.
And then I dated like 2 girls after that. And the third girl I dated was also one of their cousins. So like, cool.
You're just going through the family tree, man. Climbing that like, family tree.
That's wild. And then actually Emma's mother is actually a cousin to my very first girlfriend, second and third girlfriend. I'm like, that's crazy. Like the time difference, because I'm like, how? But I'm like, that's how small like my town basically is. Like a lot of like the same kind of families and like live all around and stuff like that.
You guys made sure you're not cousins, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
good.
But I'm just like thinking, I'm like, at what age do I feel comfortable that like I could be like, Emma, you know, like you're old enough, I trust you. To a point, I'm like, when is it like, okay, like now I need to get you on birth control just in case. Like,
oh man,
like, I know, like at 14, like me losing, like I look back and I'm just like, man, I kind of wish I would have waited a little bit till at least like 16 or 17. Like when I could have been like having a job, be a little bit more responsible. Like still not great, but I'm like much better than 14. You know,
just a little bit more maturity under your belt, maybe.
It's like at the same time, like you know, like 14. I'm like, look, if they want to make out in the room and it doesn't go any further, I don't care. Like, I mean, I get it. You love each other. You can kiss. Yeah. So I'm like, fine, but I'm like, I don't want you actually sleeping together where I gotta fear like pregnancy and stuff. So I'm just like, oh man, I don't.
Especially
like,
with a girl too, the risks are so much high. Because like obviously, I got to worry about him knocking up a girl and getting pregnant or getting a disease, right? But that is so much easier to avoid for a guy. You know, and I just got to teach him like be smart about who you throw it in and like stuff like that. And same deal, I'll have to decide what age. But ultimately, if I had a daughter, imagine I'll have a daughter at some point, but if I had a daughter, that conversation is so much more about like, you need to love and respect yourself to make sure that anybody that wants to sleep with you deserves the right. You know what I mean? Like this is so much, it's so much more intimate. It's so much more vulnerable. Like, you know, it'd be the worst thing ever for a girl to lose her virginity at a party. And honestly, if my son told me that, I'd be like, cool, man. Like, good job. Like, and hey, call it a double standard if you want. I've known enough people to know that a girl that loses her virginity when she's drunk at a party is not going to be happy about it. And a guy who does is probably going to be pretty happy about it. So in a world where you got to protect your daughter, man, like even thinking about my hypothetical daughter and hearing that happened to her, it gives me like palpitations. So like, I don't envy you having a daughter, man. Like, of course you love Emma to the moon, but those conversations for a dad are just different, man. They're different.
Yeah, because like her mom's always gonna have the conversation, but then I'm gonna have to have the conversation with her because, like, obviously from her mom's point of view, like, yeah, she had certain things, but I'm like, you're not a boy. Like, you're never gonna understand like how like the things we do. I'm like the stuff like that. I'm like, you know, like I'm gonna have to stand like, look, like. If you don't feel good about yourself, like boys might tell you they're pretty just to get in your pants. So I'm like, and you got to worry about so much more stuff about getting pregnant. They might leave, not be around. Like, because some dudes are a piece of crap, especially this day and age. I'm like, STDs are much more harder for you to avoid. I'm like, because you can't really put anything there to avoid it. I'm like, so just make sure they wear condoms and hope that, you know,
and trust that they don't pull it off in the middle.
Yeah, or
You know what I'm,
embrace and
or
you don't know.
yeah.
Like, so you gotta worry about that. You gotta, communication, hope that they communicate, which guys are horrible at. I'm like, and make sure you're around people you trust. If you go to parties, make sure
Yeah.
you don't leave your drinks anywhere.
Have to go with
Like,
friends. Like it's
don't
just different. And you're a
don't go
dude.
anywhere alone. Like, so I know a lot of the tricks and like feedback stuff that I've heard from like all my female friends and things that like I've
Yep.
seen and
Yep.
just like, dude, I'm like I wanted a girl so bad, and after I had her, and she's gotten older, I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me that I thought I wanted to have a girl? I'm like, because I am stressing so bad the closer she gets. And it's, oh, dude, it's
But you'll
so.
handle it, and Emma will do great because
Yeah,
ultimately you raise a good kid and they'll live a good life. It's just it's hard
yeah,
to not focus on those fears because
yeah, because it's
we all
constant,
have those friends, man, that had
Yeah,
a bad event, and you don't want that bad event to be your kid. It's
yeah,
rare, but the rare times that it happens, you just really hope it's not someone you care for and love, man. And you know better than most people that are dealing with their demons from traumas of the past that probably could have not, no, that sounds terrible. Not could have been avoided, but they would have been much more set up to potentially avoid it had they been trained to know what the fuck to do in those situations. I'm not saying,
yeah.
I'm not blaming the victim at all. Don't take it
No,
that way.
no,
But
no, but
preparation
no.
is key for
Yeah,
everything, the good
like,
and the bad.
because for me, like, I don't really mind sharing it because I mean it is important, especially for like parents, especially teaching their kid, especially a boy. If you have a boy, 100% something you need to teach your kid is that in this day and age, like all it takes is for a girl to go to a police station and say, "Hey, he
Yeah.
raped me," and you're in trouble. Now that can also be with women too. I mean,
Yeah.
women on women or men on men, but like men are less likely to go and say something. And if they do, most people just kind of like, "Why are you complaining? Like what?" And like when I had it done to me, like no evidence, no nothing. Like I still had to go to court. I still had to
Yeah.
say like, like stand there and then be like, hey, there's a restraining order because you supposedly did this. Um, and what's going on? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude, this is a situation. We split up. She's very angry because I stood up to her. I didn't want to be bullied. She's now accusing me of this because she wants her daughter taken away. And the judge kind of just like, look, like you're saying that you went to a police station, said that he had video evidence on his phone and computer, but you couldn't. They said they couldn't help you, which no police officer would ever tell someone who
No
goes in,
shit.
especially a woman who says, hey, there's evidence that they're not going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
So the judge instantly knew it was bullshit and threw it away. But did she get in trouble for that? No. If a guy did something like that, guaranteed you probably would get in trouble for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But like it was a very scary thing. And even though at the time, like I was terrified, as soon as the judge threw it out because I knew there was no legs to stand on, even my dad, who's a police officer, like, don't worry about it. I was still kind of scared, but I wasn't like I'm gonna go to jail or something because you have to prove it. How would I prove that I didn't do something that I didn't do?
The famous
But
questions of an innocent man.
mentally, like if it wouldn't be for the fact that my dad used to be a cop, I'm like, and I talked to him and like got his advice and stuff, like I would have had no idea what I needed to do to prepare. I have no idea what I've been walking into. Like even still, I'm still mentally fucked up from it. Like it still
Yeah.
makes me scared to talk to certain women or even be intimate with them because I'm like thinking now, like beforehand, I always ask, like, are you sure? And like I know it's annoying for some ladies because like I just want to be in the mood. Like let's just have sex. Like why are you
Yeah.
asking? Like obviously I want it, but like for me now because of what I went through, like I always ask. Like they could be sending me nudes and videos and tell me blatantly what they want to do to me.
Yeah.
And they come over to my house and they just like, and I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And like we'll start like undressing and like making out and stuff like that. And before I do anything, I'm like, you're 100% positive you want to do this. Like, I'm sorry I'm asking, but like, I just want to make sure like you're not going to regret this tomorrow or anything. And they're like, yeah.
What a
Now
fear to have. Like, and I get
that's
it
just
though,
because,
man. It sucks.
yeah. And even still, even though I'm 110% knowing that they said yes, we went through everything. There's still no guarantee that they're not just going to turn around as soon as we're done and go to the police station and be like, hey, he raped me. And then at that point, you're really screwed because you slept together. So there is DNA. How do you prove that it was
Yeah.
consensual?
Well, and
'Cause
also
you
you
can't show
have
up.
the accusation there. Well, for you specifically, like you've already been, even though you've been proven innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt, the accusation is still there. Like,
Yep.
just because you've been proven innocent doesn't mean you didn't have to prove your innocence before.
Yeah.
So now, just God forbid, somebody has a regret. And that's bullshit. Like, it happens. And the saddest thing is how much the conversation that we're having isn't allowed to be having anymore, because too many individuals take it as you're diminishing rape. It's like, no, we're not. We're actually saying that accusations have the power that very few people understand that it has. It's not about being proven innocent. It's about, hopefully, I never get accused. Because like you said, how does an innocent person prove they did not do something? Like, no, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Prove it.
How?
Other than saying I didn't, what do you mean? Isn't it the burden of proof on you to prove that I did it? But again, as the innocent person, you now were innocent before, innocent during, and are still innocent after. The only thing that's different is now you've had the consequences of being accused. And you have to deal with that the rest of your life, regardless of being proven innocent in the public, in the court's eye. And that's the part that I don't think enough people put enough weight on, because that shit will crush a person's spirit, man. Like, a lot of people see the trauma and are very understanding of the trauma that sexual assault and abuse has on an individual, right? They become shut-ins. They stop going to social events, right? They lose their self-worth. They may blame themselves for things they have no right to blame themselves for. Sound familiar story? Right? So ultimately, that trauma outlasts the horrible event. The horrible event is the catalyst. That's a nuclear explosion that you now have to deal with while trying to date. Like, you have to trust other women to not fuck you like a prisoner. Excuse my graphic nature, but I mean, that's some trauma, man.
It is.
Bless your heart for not giving up on love. I won't let you.
And it's important because, like, people will be like, oh, well, like, that's one bad instance. But it's not, because you look at the news and you see, like, women who use it as a weapon. Like, oh, I dated a pro football player, so I'm just going to accuse him. He was being a football player. And I think he went to jail for a little bit, and then found out that, like, she lied.
Yeah, that just happened.
And then, like, she ended up going to jail and having to repay, like, everything because, like, she ruined his life. But I'm like, there are women out there who just use it as a weapon to get back at the person they were with, and you're just like, they don't care. And then it's like the people who actually generally have this problem, like, then they don't get taken seriously because of people like that. So it's like, it's not
it diminishes
just us,
everything.
Yeah. So it's just like, that's why guys nowadays are really worried about dating and stuff, because, like, it's not that hard for a woman just to go and say something, and then you're in trouble, and then, and it's just like, it sucks. I hate it. It's so hard for me. Even now to date, like,
it dissolves trust so much, man.
It does, and it puts a constant fear on you constantly, like,
because then all you do is see it, like you said, right? So your
everywhere.
Personal experience plus, look at all these stories, right? Like, obviously there's the big ones. Johnny Depp, who cares that he won in court 20 whatever year, like however many years later. She doesn't have money to pay him anyway. You think he wanted money, or do you think he didn't want to be accused of being a psycho rapist, whatever, abuser, not rapist, but abuser? It doesn't matter that Johnny Depp became innocent. He got fucked,
look how much it ruined.
man.
Can't work with Disney anymore because they didn't take his word for it. So he got screwed out of that, and, like, blackmail from tons of. I don't even know if he's doing movies anymore. I can't remember the last time I've seen a movie announced with stuff coming out.
I'm pretty sure he's doing music, but like you said,
it's ruined.
I'm gonna plug out a movie that I want you to watch, but also I think anybody who relates to this concept should also watch. It's an older one from 2012. I just saw the preview. I haven't seen it yet, so if it's bad, it's not going to be. I'm a good judge of movies. This is going to be a good one. But it's called The Hunt. Yeah, whatever. It's called The Hunt. And it is about a teacher in a small village who everybody knew. This is like, he's not an outsider coming in. So anyway, he's a teacher in a village. And one of his students, I think they were like first, second graders or kindergarten. But anyway, one of his young lady students had a little crush on him. There was an event where They were this was in a group setting, the teacher in class with the kids, okay, were horse playing. The little girl freaking surprise attacked the teacher, gave him a kiss, and he was like, no, you can't do that. That's not right. And the little girl's basically like, I love you, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you can't do that. And ultimately, on his face, the most innocent and well-handled reaction to that type of situation between a kid and adult. He handled it perfectly. Now, the issue came when the little girl casually threw out to another teacher that she kissed him, but that's not how it was heard, right? Essentially, she recounted what happened, and from that innocent mentioning from the kid, the movie essentially shows one by one this town just changing this story, and essentially by trying to protect these kids from a made-up villain that isn't a pedophile, it like his life gets destroyed while the town is essentially persecuting someone who doesn't deserve it righteously because they believe it's true. So they're trying to protect him or protect the kids from him while he, in fact, is an innocent man the whole time. So it's such an interesting dynamic, but like on why good intentioned people accuse and are so passionately emboldened when there's no facts anywhere because they're trying to protect while the other side is dealing with that unbelievable accusation. It might be a little triggering for you, but I mean, if you want to see a movie that seems to really represent a falsely accused man's struggle with that false accusation, man, I tell you, that one looks super good. So I would say it's definitely worth the watch. Me and wife are going to watch it, and we love those type of human stories, man, because I can't imagine. We say it a lot here. The worst thing that could ever happen to us is we have to deal with the law or the justice system. Not even for criminals, just like in you know, in any capacity. So, oof. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's definitely an important talk to have with your son, daughter, or your son. Like, because like it sounds terrible saying like, you really need to have the talk more with your son than your daughter. But like for your son, there's so much more landmines that you have to kind of dodge. Like for women, it's bad because like, you can't trust if you're drinking at a bar or at a party and like other things to look out for, which sucks for them too. But like for a guy, like you have to avoid all that stuff, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. But like if you get accused and you're innocent, like it's almost impossible unless the other person admits like they lied. Like how are you going to prove your innocence?
Oh yeah.
Like there's no way, dude. Like I am so glad that she was dumb and just lied about it.
Sorry.
And showed like, okay, like clearly you're lying because none of that happened. No justice system be like, sorry, you said you were raped. We can't help you. Get out.
Yeah.
Because if not, I probably would have went to jail because like, how would I have proved anything?
Yeah.
I'm like, because like if you record it and without the other person knowing, that's illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you have other than that? It's proof, you know? Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, if it's not recorded, other than your word, what else is there? You know?
So
well, the cool thing though, and on a happy note, is even though it was terrible and should never have happened, at least the truth did come out though. Like we do have to count that blessing for what it is.
Yeah,
man.
And it's helped me to raise awareness and help people who go through other terrible things and stuff like that. So I'm like, it sounds shitty. I'm like, but my life's been crazy. But I'm like, I get those experiences, and now like I've learned like, look, it was shit at the time, but I can use these experiences to help other people through like parenting issues and shit like that. And be like, look, you know, like it's good. But I'll tell you what, it's one of the big things that is difficult for me to talk about with certain people because like that's a hard word to throw around, and there are some people who are like, listen, if you were accused, you're 100% guilty. Like you could have 100% video proof that nothing happened, but that person's like, nah, you were accused. You're done. Like you are 100%. So like it's scary, man. Scary world.
Yeah. And everybody says, well, it won't happen to me, or that's only happens to bad people. Hey, funny story. See this guy right here? He's one of the best He's one of the better
Baddest,
people I've met in this fucking world. And guess what? It happened to him. And it was proven to not be true. So if you need to essentially stop judging people you don't know and just try to empathize. Try to empathize for others who might be suffering, man. There's three sides to every story. His, hers, and the truth. Everyone has a bias. Everyone has a version. And ultimately, you should just want the best outcome, right? Don't villainize people you don't know. And if you're in a situation where you're being villainized, what's the best advice, right? How'd you survive it being accused of such a heinous thing, man?
Just distance myself from the situation, like,
oh really,
as best I could. Like, I mean, obviously you can only distance yourself so far, but like the people who heard about it and then would like come to me asking questions, I'd be like, look, like, I'm glad you're one of those people who ask questions, but I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Gotcha. Like, it's not true. You can look it up. It'll be in the paper if it is. I don't want to talk about it. I'll keep my distance. Kept to my close people and just didn't really talk about it. Distancing myself from her. No communication, really. Okay. You know, don't have to see her. Don't be anywhere. You know, like, because end of the day, a big thing that everybody's like, oh, well, this person's accused of this or they did that, and they stay silent, so obviously they're guilty. Like, no, 9 times out of 10, if you say something, you make it worse. Mm-hmm. Because, like, oh, well, now you're defending yourself, so clearly you're guilty because you're defending yourself. Like, interesting. Just let it, just deal with it personally, whatever you got to do, and just let it come out the way it is, and then talk about it after it's been proven. Then discuss it, because like that was the big thing I see a lot is people come out and they're like, oh, that's a fake apology, or they didn't mean it, or well, now they're defending themselves because it must be true. Like, interesting. No, just don't say anything. Stay silent.
Just stick to the truth plot. And don't get sucked into the drama of it all.
And just do your best for your kids to explain, hey, this may happen to you. Because my biggest thing after that was like, I'm never gonna tell my kid, don't ever say, hey, couldn't happen to me, because it could. And then at that point, what are you gonna do?
Exactly. Live your life in a way that can endure every hit. Yep. Because you never know what hit's gonna come, man. Yep. Don't ever think you can't. It couldn't be me, right? No way that would happen to me. It could happen to you. Happens every day to somebody, right?
Yep.
People get struck by lightning all the time. Just because it's unlikely. I bet you that person never thought they were going to get struck by lightning either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still happened to them. So I actually just recently, somebody I knew, their car got struck by lightning and it killed the whole thing. So guess what? I know some of the most rare things that can happen to a person. I know one right here and another person down the road. Okay. False accusations, struck by lightning. Those are some big rare ones. And I got my Pokédex filled with these people, okay? Because it ain't as rare as you think. You just have to live long enough to meet enough people. Be amazed.
Pretty much.
Man, today we talked about a lot of stuff, Storyteller Merc.
Yeah.
It was good,
deep
dude.
Stuff, but
deep stuff that I think a lot of people are better off knowing that they're not alone in this world, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people looking for common ground with their struggles. And if you find common ground with us, just know that your struggles are conquerable, right? We don't focus on being defeated by the things that get in our way when it comes to our kids or our lives or our relationships. We get really pissed off at them. We address what we got to do, and then we move on past them. Okay? It's not about not getting mad and never spanking your kid, right? It's not about never getting divorced, and it's not about always getting divorced. And it's not the biggest thing for me today was you just don't ever give up, man. In the face of all the mountains in the world. If you got a kid on the other side of that mountain, you climb it, get over it, and go get your kid. And that's what you've done, man. Your whole time you've been a dad. Through hellfire and brimstone, you know, hurricanes of psycho and deep, dark caves of darkness.
Yeah.
You've survived every ounce of it, man, and you're still here. And now you're using all of that trauma to help other dads make it. And that's what we're doing. And I love it. You got anything else you want to tell the people today?
The other big thing too is if you need someone to talk to, please just leave a comment if you need to. Like you talk to one of us, you know, we check occasionally. Probably Marcus more than me, but you know, he'll get in contact. You know, tell us how to reach out. You know, we'll get a hold of you. But don't be afraid to talk to people. Because honestly, if it wasn't for Marcus and one of my other good friends, I probably would have given up a long time ago, given up my daughter, and just been
No
like,
way.
I'm out. I can't. I'm over it. But it
Not
helped a
allowed.
lot. It was scary.
Mhm.
It took a lot of courage to talk to a stranger, but I'm telling you, it helps to have someone to talk to. As much as we've grown up to be like, don't talk about feelings. You're a wimp. Don't do it.
Yep.
No, you need to. You really do,
Yep.
especially for your kids.
I love
So,
that, man. Because it's true. Leave comments. We'll answer them on the show, right? We're still
Yeah.
at a size we can. So honestly, ask a question. I bet you we say it. We'll even say your name, right? We know
Yeah.
y'all like that. Okay. So, but jokes aside, you're not alone. With the internet, you don't have to suffer in silence anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
You won't get negativity from us, but if you bring your negativity here, I bet you we turn it around and show you the bright side of it. Because the world's not as dark, especially when you're with people, man. And look at the shine on this head. Okay. Him too.
Yeah.
He's got the forehead. I got the 50 head.
Yep.
Okay. All the way back. Okay. So between these two shining beacons, we got you, and we're all going to get this together. Right, men? The dad's perspective, because it's a good perspective. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess with that a little. But no, so that was episode 4. Thank you all for being here. If you liked it, hit the like. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. If you liked Story's shirt, I want to see it in the comments. I loved it.
Yeah.
So from me and from Story, thank you guys so much, man. We'll see you on the next episode. All right, peace. Say bye to the people, Story.
Busters. Love your faces.
Later.